Ladies and gentlemen, history has a strange rhythm. It doesn't always beat to the drum of privilege, fame, or even talent. Time and again, it sings the story of men and women discarded, overlooked, doubted, and left behind, who rise from the ashes of rejection to change the course of the world. Let me tell you something today, not just from study, but from observation, and truth of rejection is preparation, not disqualification. This idea runs contrary to how most people interpret failure or being overlooked. In our culture, rejection is often seen as a stop sign, a definitive signal that something is wrong with us, our talents, our potential, our worth. But rejection, when properly understood, is not a denial of destiny. It is the sharpening stone of greatness. Every individual who has accomplished something significant has walked the road of rejection. It may have come from family, teachers, employers, peers, or even the culture at large. They were told they didn't belong. They weren't chosen. They were the wrong fit, the wrong style, the wrong voice. But instead of folding under the weight of that rejection, they began to transform it. Not because they were naturally resilient, but because life gave them no other choice. Rejection has a way of clarifying purpose. When people turn away from you, when doors close in your face, it creates a vacuum. And in that vacuum, you're forced to ask deeper questions, questions that comfort and success rarely prompt. Who am I really? What am I here to do? What can I build without applause? These are the questions that give birth to vision. Preparation begins where validation ends. Most people waste years waiting to be chosen. They wait for the right opportunity, the right mentor, the perfect environment. But those who've been rejected, truly rejected, eventually learn to stop waiting. They realize no one is coming to hand them the pen to write their story. So they grab it themselves. They stop seeking comfort and start seeking clarity. They start working in silence. They learn to thrive in isolation. They become their own advocate, their own motivator, their own standard. What rejection does, if you let it, is strip away your dependence on approval. It teaches you how to be strong in solitude. You learn to build not because someone told you to, but because you must. That kind of preparation doesn't show up in a resume or a portfolio, but it shows up in the depth of your character, the calm in your crisis, and the discipline of your daily effort. Those who are constantly accepted, constantly praised, often lose their edge. They begin to perform for applause instead of purpose. But those who have been hardened by rejection develop something deeper. Conviction. Rejection forces you to either retreat or rise, and those who rise develop an inner grit that cannot be taught in any classroom. They know how to get up after the fall. They know how to continue when the world is silent. They know how to lead without needing to be followed. Rejection also creates perspective. Once you've been shut out of the room enough times, you stop being intimidated by the room. You start asking whether that room was even worth entering in the first place. You stop conforming to someone else's idea of success and begin to build your own definition. That shift is the beginning of freedom. You no longer chase opportunities, you create them. You no longer seek worth, you live from it. To those who have been passed over, let it be known this is not the end. It is the beginning of your training. The isolation you feel is your classroom. The silence you hear is your curriculum. And the disappointment you carry is your teacher. You are not being disqualified. You are being prepared. Every no is a chisel in the hand of destiny, shaping you into the version of yourself required to carry the weight of your calling. The overlooked become the unstoppable. It's a law of life that has echoed through centuries, disguised beneath the surface of biographies, revolutions, inventions, and spiritual awakenings. The people the world passes by, the ones it underestimates, the ones who never get picked first, they often become the ones who redefine the very systems that ignored them. There is a strange and powerful pattern where invisibility becomes the training ground for indomitable strength. To be overlooked is not merely to be unseen, it is to be dismissed. The world sees you, but it does not value you. It does not believe in your capacity. It thinks you are too ordinary, too quiet, too broken, too slow, too strange. You are not considered a threat. You are not viewed as essential. But precisely in that dismissal lies an extraordinary advantage. When no one is watching, you are free to grow without interference. You are free to fail in private, to refine your purpose in silence, to train in solitude. The overlooked are not underqualified. They are underestimated. That underestimation becomes their armor. It allows them to move unnoticed, to build quietly, to take risks others are too proud to attempt. They are not trapped by image, not burdened by expectations. They do not have to protect a reputation because they have none. This freedom becomes a weapon. While others compete for spotlight, the overlooked are mastering their craft. While others perform, they prepare. Being overlooked can breed resentment, but for those who channel it properly, it breeds resilience. It builds emotional muscle. It teaches you how to navigate rejection, how to persist without praise, how to depend on your own conviction instead of borrowed confidence. The overlooked have learned to keep moving when no one claps. They've developed the rare capacity to act from principle rather than applause. That discipline, that consistency becomes their superpower. There is also a psychological shift that happens in the overlooked. They stop expecting the world to rescue them. They stop believing someone is coming to discover them, sponsor them, promote them. Instead, they become self-starters. They create their own systems, their own paths, their own platforms. They no longer knock on closed doors. They build new buildings. That mindset, independent, focused, unshakable, is what makes them unstoppable. The path of the overlooked is not paved with encouragement. It is marked by lonely days, quiet breakthroughs, invisible progress. But because of that, they become familiar with discomfort. They do not panic under pressure. They do not crumble when resistance appears. They have already trained in the shadows. So when their time comes, they are not just ready, they are needed. They bring something to the table no one else has: depth, authenticity, and unmanufactured strength. The overlooked are often the ones who learn how to lead from the bottom. They lead without authority, without titles, without status. They influence not through power, but through integrity. They learn to gather people not with charisma, but with purpose. And when their influence begins to rise, it cannot be traced back to luck or connections. It is the fruit of endurance. There is also a spiritual dimension to being overlooked. When no one else believes in you, you are forced to decide whether you will. You are stripped of the crutches of external affirmation, and in that void, you meet the raw version of yourself. It is in that place where no one else is watching that inner authority is born. And that authority is not fragile. It is forged, tested, and proven. It cannot be taken away because it was never given by the world in the first place. Hunger outperforms talent when talent feels entitled. Talent is a gift, but hunger is a choice. The world is full of talented individuals who never fulfill their potential because they believe their talent alone should carry them. They wait for recognition, expect success, and become frustrated when things don't come easily. Hunger, on the other hand, doesn't wait. Hunger doesn't assume. Hunger wakes up early, stays late, and keeps working when no one is watching. It doesn't need to be fed by attention. It feeds itself. Talent often creates comfort, and comfort can dull ambition. When a person knows they are gifted, it's easy for them to coast on ability. They start comparing themselves to others who are not as naturally skilled and grow complacent. Hunger doesn't compare. Hunger doesn't measure itself against the slowest in the race. It's only interested in becoming faster, stronger, sharper. Where talent rests, hunger rises. Where talent waits, hunger acts. People often assume success is about who's the most gifted, but history tells a different story. The world remembers the persistent more than the promising. The most talented are not always the most effective. It's the ones who want it the most, who are willing to sacrifice, learn, fail, adjust, and keep moving, who reach the top and stay there. Hunger refuses to be outworked. It shows up when talent calls in sick. It keeps grinding long after talent has become bored. Hunger doesn't need perfect conditions. Talent often does. Talented people may demand the right setup, the right environment, the right level of inspiration before they act. Hunger doesn't wait for perfect. It uses whatever is available. It turns the kitchen table into an office. It turns rejection into fuel. It builds while others talk. It's resourceful, relentless, and resilient. It understands that opportunity doesn't come to the most qualified. It comes to the most prepared. When talent starts believing it deserves success without effort, it becomes entitled. Entitlement weakens drive. It creates an illusion of inevitability, a false belief that success is guaranteed because of potential. But potential without action is just untapped capacity. It's unused energy. It's dormant possibility. Hunger doesn't live in potential. It lives in performance. It's not interested in what could happen. It's focused on what will happen because of consistent, disciplined action. Hunger also brings humility. While talent may expect doors to open, hunger is prepared to knock on every one of them, and if necessary, build a new door altogether. Hunger doesn't get discouraged when things take time. It knows that growth happens in the grind. It's not afraid of starting small because it sees the value in foundation. It doesn't wait for applause. It moves by intention. It knows that slow progress is still progress, and that consistency compounds over time. Another danger with talent is that it often peaks too early. People who rely solely on their natural gifts may hit ceilings quickly because they didn't develop the character or discipline to keep growing. Hunger, on the other hand, has no ceiling. It keeps evolving. It's teachable, coachable, always seeking new edges. Hunger stays in learning mode. It studies, asks questions, sharpens skills. It doesn't settle. It doesn't plateau. It adapts. There's a different kind of energy that comes from hunger, an urgency, a fire, a deep internal motivation that doesn't fade in the face of failure or fatigue. It's not emotional. It's not impulsive. It's committed. While talent may give up when things get difficult, hunger leans in. It sees adversity as part of the process. It's not discouraged by challenge. It's activated by it. Hunger isn't hoping for a break. It's creating one. It's not waiting for permission. It's taking responsibility. Divine selection requires personal surrender. There is a misconception that being chosen for something great is about strength, perfection, or qualification. But the deeper truth is that the ones who are chosen are often the ones who have first chosen to let go. Surrender is not weakness. It is not passive. It is the conscious decision to release control over outcomes, ego, timing, and recognition. It is the act of emptying oneself so that something greater can flow through. Surrender is the internal shift that allows for divine assignment. It means stepping away from the need to prove yourself and moving into the space where obedience matters more than applause. Many people are talented, capable, and even hardworking, but they are too full of plans, pride, and personal agendas. There is no room left for guidance, correction, or transformation. Surrender creates space. It creates a blank canvas where purpose can be written. Personal surrender does not mean abandoning ambition. It means aligning it. It means asking not only what you want to do, but who you need to become in order to carry what you are asking for. It requires humility. It requires stillness. It requires the ability to say, even if this path doesn't look how I imagined, I will still walk it if I know it is right. That level of surrender is rare because it demands trust over control. It demands patience over pressure. The people who are truly chosen are often not the most obvious candidates. They are not always the loudest, the most popular, or the most polished, but they are the ones who have been refined in quiet places. They have let go of entitlement. They have stopped demanding explanations. They are not driven by revenge or vanity. They have been emptied of the need to be seen so they can carry what cannot be seen: vision, wisdom, peace, and purpose. Surrender is also a decision made in discomfort. It is not chosen when everything feels right. It is chosen when everything feels uncertain. It is the posture taken in seasons of silence and delay. Most people fight during those times. They push harder, talk louder, or walk away. But those who understand surrender stay. They wait. They listen. They prepare. That waiting is not wasted. It is part of the shaping. It is how authority is built from the inside out. There is a power that follows surrender that cannot be manufactured. It gives access to things that cannot be earned through talent or effort alone. When a person is surrendered, they no longer chase validation. They are no longer fragile when criticized. They do not manipulate outcomes. They walk with clarity because they are no longer trying to carry everything themselves. That clarity produces confidence, not arrogance, but assurance rooted in alignment. Personal surrender also removes the need for comparison. When you are surrendered, you stop measuring your life against others. You no longer envy their pace or their platform. You understand that your assignment is unique, and so is your path. You trust that you are being prepared for what is yours, not what belongs to someone else. That freedom is what allows true growth. It is what produces maturity, focus, and longevity. Without surrender, success becomes heavy. It becomes something you must maintain with anxiety, fear, or pride. But with surrender, success becomes stewardship. You hold it with open hands, knowing it was never about you in the first place. That posture attracts favor, insight, and endurance. It is not that you stop working or leading. It is that you stop forcing. You become a vessel, not the source. You become faithful, not frantic. You become ready, not restless. Silence from others is space for purpose to speak. When the applause stops, when the invitations don't come, when no one seems to notice your effort or your presence, it is easy to assume something is wrong. But silence is not always rejection. Often it is a sacred pause, a necessary stillness that clears the noise so you can finally hear the deeper voice within, the voice of purpose, which rarely shouts over crowds. In a world addicted to validation, silence feels like punishment. We live in a time where attention is currency and invisibility can feel like failure. But real transformation does not happen in the spotlight. It happens in the quiet. It happens when the room is empty, the phone doesn't ring, and the feedback doesn't come. It is in that space that clarity begins to form. The mind settles, the soul speaks, and what emerges is not noise but vision. Silence is uncomfortable because it exposes what we've been using to prop ourselves up. Without the external affirmation, we're forced to confront our internal foundation. Are we doing this because it's meaningful or because it's popular? Are we working toward a calling or just chasing applause? Silence reveals motives. It separates passion from performance. In that revelation, purpose has the chance to take root in authenticity rather than ego. There is a reason so many people in history discovered their calling in obscurity. The wilderness seasons, the in-between stages, the hidden years, they were not wasted. They were intentional. Those silent stretches strip away distractions. They develop discipline. They teach a person how to rely on conviction rather than compliments. In silence, you either quit or you deepen. You either retreat or you rise internally. Purpose begins to speak not in volume, but in weight. When no one is watching, you learn to work with integrity. You don't cut corners because you know your standard matters more than their applause. You prepare not for performance, but for alignment. You refine your gifts, not to impress, but to honor your potential. That internal discipline, forged in silence, creates lasting impact when the noise returns, because you are no longer moved by every opinion. You are grounded. Silence is also strategic. Sometimes the absence of attention is protection. There are lessons you can only learn without an audience. There are wounds you must heal before you lead. There are strengths that must be developed in private before they are tested in public. The silence gives you space to become strong without pressure. It gives you margin to fail without shame. It allows you to grow roots so deep that no storm can uproot what's been planted. Purpose does not compete for volume. It waits for space. It speaks when the heart is still enough to listen. Most people miss it because they fill every quiet moment with noise, scrolling, talking, performing, comparing. But when you stop running from the silence, you discover that it carries answers. It carries direction. It carries reminders of who you are when the world isn't clapping. The people who endure, the ones who last, the ones who change things, they are not driven by noise. They have learned to hear in the quiet. They don't fear silence because they understand its power. They know that what is birthed in silence carries a weight that popularity can't manufacture. It's not inflated. It's earned. It's not flashy. It's rooted. And because of that, it holds steady when the world around them shifts, when others are absent, when platforms are empty, when recognition fades. That is the space where something greater begins to grow, not for the sake of being seen, but for the sake of becoming who you were always meant to be without distraction. Greatness often rises from obscurity, not spotlight. The moments that shape destiny rarely begin with crowds or recognition. They begin in places where no one is watching, where no one is applauding, where the world has not yet turned its head. Obscurity is not a curse. It is often the breeding ground of the extraordinary. It is the quiet space where potential is confronted, tested, and refined without the pressure to perform. The spotlight is seductive. It gives the illusion that visibility equals value. But many who chase visibility without first embracing obscurity build fragile legacies. They rise fast and fall faster because they skip the hidden process. Obscurity slows you down, not to delay you, but to strengthen you. It forces you to wrestle with self-doubt, to develop discipline, and to find a foundation that is not built on fleeting praise. In obscurity, there is no audience to please. There is only the mirror, and that mirror reflects everything: your fears, your laziness, your excuses, your hunger, your grit. It becomes your teacher. You learn who you are when nothing around you validates your effort. That truth is uncomfortable, but it is liberating. It frees you from the need to impress. It pushes you to ask deeper questions. Why am I doing this? Who am I becoming? What do I believe? When the crowd is silent, the ones who rise from obscurity carry something different. They don't just have talent. They have depth. They've walked through the lonely seasons. They've trained in silence. They've learned how to build without clapping, how to persist without praise, how to stand without support. They are not fragile because their strength was never built on applause. Their greatness is not of act. It is the result of endurance. Obscurity is also where vision sharpens. When the noise fades, your eyes open. You begin to see what matters. You stop chasing trends. You start listening to the still voice within that tells you what must be done, even if no one understands it yet. That voice does not shout. It whispers. It whispers direction, strategy, correction. In obscurity, that whisper becomes louder than the noise you once thought you needed. The great paradox is that the spotlight often seeks those who no longer need it. By the time they are seen, they have already become. They have already done the work. They have already built the muscle. So the light does not change them. It simply reveals what has long been hidden. They do not rise and fall with opinion. They do not crumble under pressure. They've been forged in conditions far more demanding than applause. Greatness that rises from obscurity is durable. It's not rushed. It's not reactive. It's thoughtful, intentional, grounded. It's built with long hours, unseen sacrifice, and quiet victories. There are no shortcuts in the shadows. Every step counts. Every failure teaches. Every delay matures. That kind of greatness is not swayed by trends or disheartened by rejection. It knows that significance takes time. It embraces the process. Many avoid obscurity because it feels like irrelevance. But irrelevance is only dangerous when it is mistaken for absence of value. Obscurity is not a void. It is a womb. It holds the seeds of purpose, the roots of wisdom, the framework of destiny. Those who honor that space, who stay faithful in the hidden seasons, eventually carry something the spotlight cannot give and the world cannot ignore. When the time comes, the one who rose from obscurity does not need to demand attention. Their presence commands it, not because they sought greatness, but because they submitted to growth. Not because they needed to be seen, but because they became someone worth seeing. And in that becoming, they unlock what the spotlight alone could never provide: substance, conviction, and the ability to stand when others fall.